Media. So we're gonna continue with the Python fundamental. We're gonna continue doing the basic, and today we're gonna be talking about some of the fundamentals, data type, right? So, for example, let's do a comment, right? So this is how you do a comment, which is a hashtag. So we're gonna say, sorry, a pound sign. We're gonna say data type in Python, right? So we have int, we have float, or numbers. Some will call it numbers, which is its numbers is float and int, right? And we talk about other data types later on, right? So the most basic one is this guy here, which is my favorite number. It's 11, right? So that's a number. If I print that, and 11 will show in the console, right? So that's 11 there. And then also I could print 11 plus 11, and it will give me a basic maths, right? So that's a number. That's a general number for you, right? How do I know this is a number, right? So I type. There's a function also called type, and if I put 11 there, it will tell me what type this is. It's an int, right? Which is a number, right? So you're thinking, oh, wait a minute, what the hell is type, right? So it's a function within a function, right? So print itself is a function. So when we want to print something in the console, we will type in print, and when we want to find out another type, we would also type type, and then we'll put the number, right? So let's say I want to know what 11 is. 11 is an int, right? So that's how you know. And with numbers, you could do basic mathematics with numbers. So you could do 2 times 3, right? And then that will give us 6. So with basic maths, I'll go through this later on. You have plus sign, you have minus sign. This is annoying. Let me show you. So you have a plus sign, you have a minus sign, you have a division sign, and you have a multiplication sign, and you have something called a modulo sign, and you have a power of 2 sign, right? So those are the basic. We'll go through those later on anyway. We also have something called a floating point, right? In some programming language, it's also called a double, right? So for example, float is a number that's a float, right? Because it's a precise number, right? So that's a float. Now, how do I know this is a float? So I'm going to do a type and then 2.1, right? And then if I print that, it will say this is a float number, right? Because it's a precise. It is a decimal. You're trying to find out precisely 2.1. Yeah. Again, don't worry too much about this. You don't really need to know complex maths to be a great programmer. It's just one of those things. Sometimes you watch YouTube videos, people just want to pretend they know, or they're using these complex mathematics. You're probably not going to be using them most of the time. If you're doing things like machine learning, then you probably might need to know fundamental algebra and stuff like that. Yeah. So let me keep doing this. So for example, 6, we know that's an int. How do we know? We have another function called type, and it will tell us what that is, right? If we want to add numbers, like we could add 6 minus 2, and then it will tell us it's 6, an int, and a 4, right? That's the console. So let's close that, and then we know what a float is, right? So a float is 11.11. That's a float there. How do we know this is a float? What do? We find out the type, which is 11.11. There you go. It's a float, right? So if you go back to Google and you go Python data types, right? Int, right? It should tell you what, again, W3 School will tell you what it is, and then also if you want, you could read Google what a data type in Python, what a single or signed integers is, and so on, right? Again, Google's your best friend. Learn to really appreciate Google to your advantage. So now we know where a float is, we know what a number is, right? An int. Now let's say we want to do so now you're probably thinking, hey, can I add a number int plus what do you think will happen, right? So let's say 11 point, what do you think will happen? So it converts it, right, to 22.1, right? So, but let's say I want to know what this number is, right? So there you go. Let's do that. What do you think the number will be, right? Let me know at the comment below. It's a float, right? Because you've added an int and a float together, so it will automatically converts it into a float, right? So now let's move on to other stuff, right? So we have the power. So for example, if I go 2 to the power of 3, it's 8, right? And then so we have basic like addition, minus, division, multiplication, power, and we have modulo, right, which is a reminder, right? So let's do division. So for example, let's divide 5 divided by, I don't know, 1. What do you think it will give us? 5.0, right? You will also get this code of, what do you think that is? So what it does, it removes the remainder. So this is what you're getting, right? So I mean, I don't waste your time too much knowing like on maths. It's really basic things you could do with the programming language. There is something called modulo also that you could waste your time on. Well, not waste your time, but you should know. So modulo, what do you think this would give me, right? It's a 1, right? Because it's 5 modulo 1, right? So it's a reminder. That's what it's giving you. So anytime you want to find out the remainder of remaining of a number, you use the modulo sign, right? Now there are other math function that you find in Python, right? So for example, if I go and print round, right? So that's a round number, and then this here, this REPL is giving you what a function and what the round takes, right? It's a lot of things probably right now you might not know too much about. So it just tells you what you could do with that function, right? So let's say I want to round up 3.9. What number do you think it will give me, right? So it's a 4. There you go. So it's round up the number. So let's if I round it down to like 3.3, what do you think it will give me? 3, right? Because again, if you want to know what round is, Google it, right? So I would Google round Python, and it will tell you what the function does, right? It will tell you what a round function would do, because it will round up to the nearest number, right? So for example, if it's 3.9, it would say 4. If it's 3.3, it will be 3, right? And then again, it will round us to the nearest, right? If you're using a float. Cool. Again, don't waste your time trying to memorize all of this. You might not use random in some of your codes. You might use random, right? Sorry, round. You might use round or might not use it, so don't worry about that. Yeah. Now, when come down to programming, there's an operation of precedence, right? So, for example, there's a ranking order, right? So, if you put things in bracket, this will come first, right? 2 star will come second, right? And things like multiplication and division would be ranked third, yeah? And things like plus signs, minus signs would come in 4th place, right? So for example, if I do 4 plus 4, what do you think it will give me? It will say 8, right? Now, if I combine 4 plus 4 together, right, and then I added 2 to that, what do you think it will give me, right? So you add these two together first and then plus these one. What do you think it will give me? 10, right? So I've added these two together, 8, and it's giving me a 2 on top of that, right? Now you could complicate this. You could make it into something crazy, like for example, I could do 3 times, let's add 3 minus 3, right, and minus 22 or 202. What do you think this will give me, right? If you have the answer, leave it in the comment, right? But remember what we said about what's being first, right? So it will do this bracket, what's in the bracket first. So it will calculate these first, and then between the minus and the multiplication, which one do you think will go next? Of course, it's the multiplication, so we'll multiply that, and then the minus will be last. Yeah. So if we go, this is what it will give us. It will give us a minus number. Yeah. So that's one thing also you need to watch out for. Anything in bracket comes first. Yeah, very important to know. Cool. Of course, there are other optional and complex numbers. So we could find out if we go for bin, right? So bin is a binary number. It will tell us what 5 is in binary. So if we click, so this is 5 in binary, yeah. And we could do other things, right? So we could also, for example, let's say we want to convert a binary into a normal number. We could do, for example, int, which we're converting into a binary, and we're saying to the base 2, right? So we're converting a binary number to int using base 2, right? What do you think it will give me? A 5, right? Because that's how you convert binary to a number. Cool. You could do a lot with what you just learned. So for example, you could go and do a basic calculator, right? So you could now add, you could do a basic, how to add things, how to multiplications, and you know the ranking order, what comes first, right? So that is itself, it's really 2 data type that you've learned, so which is int and float. We'll do more others coming on, because I feel like those 2 are very important for you to know. Yeah, so we would stop here and we would go to the next lesson. Yeah.